This is going to be a double feature on fake animals. I recently went to San Diego SeaWorld and I had the pleasure of witnessing a few fake animals, so I figured I'd make a video on it. Why does SeaWorld even have a sloth? What about SeaWorld says sloth? And it's just that being a part of the animal hoax, being in on the joke is nothing new to any of these large organizations, any of these big organizations. They get off in the same way as everybody else and being in on the inside jokes and duping people. And so that's why SeaWorld would have a sloth. Really, I can't think of any reason other than they want a piece of that pie of making fun of people and duping them, and it brings these people so much delight to have this inside knowledge and fool people. And the sloth. Okay, if it's always like this. Here's one thing. It's almost like all of the sloths came out of the same company and they come with the same little kit and they have the same instructions for going to Home Depot and building this little wheelie thing. They seriously always look the same. And that's very unnatural it's to me it's like they all come out of the same company and they're all doing the same stuff. And why it's very specific to sloths, and koalas are sometimes like this too, where they they live on this wheelie stick. And so I'll just talk about the sloth. I mean, there's really not that much to say. It's an animatronic. That's why are sloths just now coming out? Why did these places not have sloths 20 years ago? When I grew up, zoos did not have sloths that they would bring out on a stick for people to see and to hold a treat in front of their face the whole time. And it's behind a paywall too. You have to pay money to go get a close-up look at the animatronic. So many suspicious things. Why are these animals behind paywalls? Why do you have to pay a bunch of money to go see a sloth up close or a koala up close? And I think part of it is well, I mean, they are scammers, so getting your money is a nice plus to them. If they can dupe you and take your money, all the better, right? But it adds more validity to the situation. It's like a sunk cost fallacy almost. Like, oh, I paid all this money to go up and see this creature. You're gonna believe it more. And so I guess to get into the specifics, they have these creatures on clockwork on every 30 minutes or so. Whenever they decide to do their meetups, they wheel this creature out. They go through the same thing over and over again. It's just the same idea with gorillas. How can they make sure that these huge creatures come in and out of the little door at the same time every single day? Real wild animals, you see, they are much more just like in a cage. So San Diego, or yeah, the SeaWorld, it did actually have some real toucans with smaller beaks. It had some real cool, uh, rare, wild birds and stuff, and they were just stuck in a cage somewhere, quietly set aside without any fanfare, which is like the complete opposite of the animatronic spectacle that is the sloth, that gets drug out of its cage every 30 minutes or every hour when people are paying money to see it. It goes through its little spiel. Aren't sloths supposed to be sleeping? This is one of the most this is one of the most demanded of creatures, besides the whales and stuff that are doing flips and stuff. This sloth is on a very tight schedule, always coming out and having to perform. I thought these things are supposed to be sleeping all day. Certainly not. It's out there. Okay, and what does it do? It literally holds on to stuff. It's an animatronic that holds on to stuff. And its face follows the trainer holding a little treat. It's honestly one of the strangest things I've ever seen. The trainer, the illuminated individual who is just interacting with a robot and pretending that it's real, they literally sit there with a little treat in their hand, and you can tell that the animatronic is just trained to follow the trainer's hand that's holding a piece of food. And yeah, nothing about it seems legit. It's just so awkward, the whole experience. I mean, I'm sure that you can go look up plenty of YouTube videos on this. I'm just recounting what I remember seeing from real life. I was just standing far back because I'm a pleb who doesn't have the money to shell out to go watch an animatronic from up close. From far away, though, it was just so silly. The trainer constantly had a little piece of something in their hand, and the robot's head would always follow around. And you could see it's just like tracking. It wasn't like a normal interaction whatsoever. It seemed very robotic. What do you know? And like it was like an animatronic that was programmed to follow somebody pretending to be feeding it. And I mean, to bring it back to why do we only see these things today? Okay, yeah, because we now have technology where it's pretty simple to build a robot like this that can track somebody who has something in their hand, very within reason. But 30 years ago, the zoos didn't have stuff like that. That's why sloths weren't really a thing 30 years ago. Same thing with, it wasn't really a thing that they would let you go hold a koala, pay extra money to hold one. Just the animatronics these days are a lot better. They fake breathe, they'll be warm. So, I mean, I think that's it about the sloth. Let me know if you've ever seen one of these things. So bizarre, though. Why does SeaWorld even have a sloth? And so before I get into the penguins, I just really want to briefly talk about a memory that I have from my childhood. And close to SeaWorld, there was this place called the Wild Animal Park, and it's still around, it just has a new name. But I remember this is one of my oldest memories. And whenever it's something like that, I know that the memory stuck with me for a specific reason. I have one of the worst memories. My childhood has so many blanks and question marks in it. So there's certain things from my childhood that when I remember it, it's like, why did that memory stick with me so much compared to there could have been so many things to remember from my childhood that I remember nothing. But why that? Why do I remember that at the Wild Animal Park they had this little tiny closet-sized exhibit for a koala? And I knew then, just like back then I knew something was weird about the way people looked on TV, but I couldn't put my finger on it. This, I knew for a fact. There wasn't any ambiguity in my mind. That thing was stuffed. There was a stuffed animal in the koala exhibit at the Wild Animal Park when I grew up in the 90s. And it did not move. It was a stuffed animal. And it's so different than what they have today. It just reminds me of these sloths. Like, why weren't sloths a big exhibit back then? Why do they all look like a robot animatronic these days that are always awake and following the trainer's little treat like it's just a programmed robot? And I feel the same way about koalas these days. If you look up koala exhibits these days, they're the most bizarre things ever. There's this central tree that's like mechanical. It's not even a real tree in these koala exhibits. You look at the central tree and it looks mechanical. Why would they do that? Why would a koala be put in an exhibit with a mechanical tree? And so I've talked about this stuff before. I've looked it up before. I'm just saying this because these days they're more advanced than just sticking a plushie in a tree. They have more advanced robotics today where the mechanical koala, the animatronic koala will, climb the tree, climb the exhibit, but it's so awkward. It looks like a cuckoo clock, like, oh, it's time for the koala to move around. It never seems natural. Um, Anyways, that's an old memory. I know for a fact that they pass off stuffed animals as a real animal. And so, of course, they're going to do it with more advanced techniques too, animatronics. That brings me to this whole SeaWorld penguin exhibit. So, if you go to SeaWorld San Diego, there's a penguin exhibit, and right outside, there's so many signs, multiple signs, big, caps lock, no flash photography. And then they try to say that it's something about, oh, Arctic, we're trying to make it similar to, it's just a bunch of bullshit. They just don't want you in there taking flash photography of their old school animatronic setup. And so Yeah, I mean, I'll just go through the images that I have. This is just something to check out. If you're ever at a place with a penguin exhibit, what are you looking at? Are these real birds? Is this the tiki room, or are they real birds? And I'll say about the San Diego one, it's so hilarious because this is exactly how these people operate. Right outside of the exhibit, there were real, legitimate penguins. There are such things as, okay, penguins, but not emperor penguins, and there's a lot of made up species. There are, I don't know how many, real aquatic seabirds that are black and white, but they are not emperor penguins. I don't know if I have, like, these guys. You can see these penguins in various places, and they're real penguins. They had these guys outside of the exhibit, but once you went inside the area, no flash photography, and they put you on this little human conveyor belt thing. Then what are you watching? Is this the tiki room, or is this real life? I found some really interesting articles, so I'll just go through this. How SeaWorld keeps the body clocks of its Antarctic penguins on South Pole time. They like to poke fun at the idea, hint at the idea of, oh, the fact that these things are actually working on clockwork. This is the tiki room. It is not real animals. So here you go. When you go in and see this, what are you looking at? It's the tiki room. I guess Orlando has something that's very similar to this. The impossible dream. If you've watched enough of my videos and you know how important diction is and the way that these people talk, they're very specific about the words that they use. And, anyways, the impossible dream, the story behind SeaWorld San Diego's penguin encounter. Even the fact that they keep calling it an encounter seems strange to me. So this Frank Todd is just some Masonic deceiver. I'll just read this. Yes, that is correct. Unfortunately, most of the zoos up to that time were not taking the best care of penguins, not because of disinterest, but because they just didn't have the information, and many penguins were being killed with kindness. Due to our success, all our research has been passed on to other zoos, and virtually every other zoo in the world uses SeaWorld protocol now. Even on the exhibit design, it was so innovative when it was built. There were so many new things in it. Many people were calling it the impossible dream. There were people, even at SeaWorld, who were fearful it wasn't going to work. All right, I don't know, guys. I don't think people are gonna buy it. It is so ludicrous. Leave a comment if you guys have been to these penguin things. Even my wife, who I don't really talk to her about all the deepest conspiracy stuff that I'm into, she knew something was up with that penguin exhibit. I was like, this looks like straight out of It's a Small World. This is so lame when you go through and you see them. I think that's why they're saying even people at SeaWorld, they were afraid it wasn't going to work. What do you mean not going to work? They were afraid people were going to catch on to the fact that it's not real. But it did work, and just about every place in the world now utilizes the techniques we developed at the penguin encounter. Do you just see the way that they specifically talk in a way where if you know the secret, you kind of know what they're talking about. They're saying that they didn't even know that they were going to get away with it. And when they did, when the public bought it, now everybody follows the SeaWorld protocols to dupe people, to make them think that what they're seeing is real. So this is what it looks like basically when you go in there. The emperor penguins are just standing there. They don't really move. You're on a moving sidewalk, so there is like an upper viewing area. That's if somebody lives near SeaWorld San Diego or the Florida one, uh I mean, I don't think it's that immoral to videotape something even though people tell you not to. They just say no flash photography. But anyways, I bet if you went in there and you really sat there and observed, I bet you would see a lot of looping behavior and penguins that literally never move for just the entire time. And anyways, this is what it looks like when you're about to go in. I was looking for all the signs that are like no flash photography. 11:30 to 3 o'clock. There's a lot of threes going 11:3. So 11:30, that could be a 33 reference because 11 times 3 is 33. It's when they open their exhibit. Couple weds inside Antarctica penguin environment. They don't look cold at all. It doesn't look cold even remotely in there. Anyways, only illuminated individuals. So that's it for this video. What are you seeing when you enter into a dark room, you're put on a little human moving sidewalk and presented something behind glass? What are you really looking at? What are all these institutions totally legitimate, or do you live in a world of deceit and deception where people get off on duping others and charging them money for it? Hope you enjoyed this video. God bless everyone.